am recording now.
Okay. 1,
2,
3,
4,
5.
4.
Hey, you're not allowed to do this. Oh, because there's 4 seasons of Doremi. I get it. You're so smart. um,
4.
God damn it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final episode of the No Showcast. At least final quote. Regular is not the word to use here, actually. The final planned episode, I should say, because I don't want to completely disqualify us from doing more, but it's not gonna be like a thing. I guess it's more like it'll be like a happenstance of like we happen to watch a Magical Girl show together at the same time, and like we can talk about this, rather than like we're gonna talk about this show next. Yeah. But before we get to that, okay, no, I'm wrong. We have one more episode after this. I'm stupid. Na-i-sho in the movie. Fuck, I ruined it. I fucked it all up.
4 is the number of tears that I have left after finishing Dokan.
Oh, you're drowning over there. Sheesh. Anyway, so okay. After that, I fucked everything up. So before we get into that though, the Na-i-sho, you kind of outsourced that in your rambling video that you put out a little while ago. Just to sort of quickly summarize the situation with that is that we do want to continue doing it in some fashion. We want to read manga. We have other shonen stuff. Probably the next one we do is going to be Egghead because it's almost over and it's fucking One Piece. So it's like, of course we're going to read and talk about it. Mathwiz gets to be nearly caught up with One Piece and maybe she won't fall off this time. I'll badger her every week, I guess.
Yeah, if I don't stay caught up to read it weekly after Egghead, then it's like I won't get closer than that.
It'll never happen, yeah. But anyway, so it's the idea is to continue doing it, but at like more of like when kind of like what I was saying with the Nono show, where it's more like what'll probably happen is like I want to read a battleship series, I'll ask Mathwiz about it, and then we'll kind of decide from there, or vice versa. Especially if Mathwiz wants to read something, which I feel like she's almost never going to want to do of her own volition because like she's just not a manga reader. But if she did have to like, I have this video idea, but I want to read this shonen manga, like why not read it with her and talk about it, right? Like that, and that can help you for contextualizing your thoughts, like for Ayakashi Triangle, right? Like that would be a good example of it, like a series that you did want to reread, right? So probably more like that, less structured, less rigid, especially. Aside, but it'll happen. Hopefully, I hope. Yeah.
A lot of it is just that, like, I'm honestly kind of impressed that we had the Na-i-sho going as long as we did before the initial hiatus, because, like, I don't know, just a lot's changed for me in the last few years, and it's harder for me to, same with the Magical Girl stuff, that, like, it's harder for me to just sit down and commit to, like, setting aside the time to do a long-running Magical Girl series and then talk about it in the same way that like, we used to. Because, like, we started the Nono show with Hokuto Precure, like, once that aired, and now it's been, like, 5 or 6 years.
I didn't know it was that long ago. Fuck.
So it's just like a lot has changed in that time, and I think I wanted to it feels like Doremi would be a good, maybe at some point I watch a Magical Girl series and it's like, hey, maybe we talk about it, but I don't like the idea of committing to it anymore, because I don't want to like have things on hold where it's like, oh, are they ever going to come back to this? Because just, I don't know. Things have last couple of years have been pretty chaotic for me, and I'm just trying to focus on different things now.
Mm-hmm. But God, sorry, you just gave me a little like mental breakdown with reminding me how long. I was gonna say, because right now I feel like if you're gonna watch a Magical Girl show, it's probably gonna be one of the ones that you've started already but haven't finished, and then by the time you do finish them, for me it would have been so long since I watched it, like. I started Sailor Moon in 2021. You're like, 14 episodes into season 1, so even if you finish that, it's like, oh yeah, that show that I watched over 3 years ago. Yeah.
I don't think I've watched an episode of Sailor Moon since 2021.
Probably in that same length of time, right? And I think you're also watching like Max Heart and Hero Girl Sky Precure. Hero Girl Sky Precure I could probably reasonably discuss, but also we're halfway through Wonderful, the follow-up season, so it's like, oh god. Yeah, so it's just like I said, it's not gonna be a regular thing after the next Doremi episode, which will be the last one. And yeah, that, I think that about covers it. Oh, well, I guess speaking of, I guess to sort of segue to Doremi with watching, length and time in years, I was looking through like back at the dates and stuff, and I think it took us like probably 2+ years to watch like the first 3 seasons of Doremi, and then it's taken us 2.5 years to watch Dokan.
Yeah,
We
it
started
was like
in
tried
January 2022 for reference.
Yeah, I tried twice to do the daily Magical Girl, like an episode of Magical Girl anime a day, and I got like a bit through it in 2022, and then a bunch of stuff happened in my life and I got derailed and just never got back to it. So then in 2023 I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this again. And I got a couple months in, I like wrapped up Cardcaptor Sakura, we recorded a couple pre-Cure episodes, I got to Dokan, and then a bunch of stuff happened in my life again, and it got derailed, and so yeah, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, it's right. So because I remember checking, and it's like I think Moto is season 3. That one was Sharp is season 2. Because Moto you started in January 2021, so you were doing your daily Magical Girl shows then too. But you finished that show, and then eventually we did talk about it that year. But then Dokan was like, oh god. So that said, we were able to watch it this year because we started group watching, basically, where I think you were like which is funny because I ended up having to rewatch like 10 episodes because I was like 10 episodes ahead of Mathwiz on Dokan. I liked it, so I wanted to keep watching it, but then it's like I didn't want to get too far, so I just kind of like, I'll just watch up to the halfway point, and then I'll keep going whenever Mathwiz gets around to it. And she ended up that didn't happen, so I ended up like rewatching the like episode like 14 through 25 or so of Dokan with her, and then we actually have since kept. But we finally finished it. Yay! It's over. Not over. I mean, okay, something's over. Anyway, so let's talk about Doremi Dokan and try and go as long as we can without talking about the last like 11 episodes or 12 episodes.
Yeah.
Even though for both of us, again, like a good dozen of those episodes we haven't seen in closer to 2.5 years.
I have a folder of screen caps to attempt to reference, but I'm going through some of the early ones, and it's just a lot of goofy expressions, and that doesn't really tell me anything.
I mean, I like obviously the big status quo is Hana being a student, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Like I remember one of the early episodes that I still remember was with Pop, where kind of them both being like the younger characters in the group, and just that sort of like contrast, and Pop kind of connecting with Hana, and Hana helping Pop realize some things, and just it was just, I just remember that one being cute. And Hana in general is like, she's just a good addition to the cast because she's just this like chaos, like she's always been a kind of chaos agent, but now she's got like dialogue. And I loved her dynamic with Reika, because Reika's like this, like, she's still kind of a shit, but Hana, it just completely disarms her and drags her into her own pace, because Hana is just, she's this unstoppable force, and Reika is by no means an immovable object, so she just gets dragged along.
They just become rivals at its peak.
Well, it's like a one-sided rivalry, because Hana's like, you're my friend, and Reika's like, no. It's so funny.
I'm looking at some screen caps I have from like the first or second episode, and I see one joke that's like, wait, isn't that the same name as the baby? And it's like, well, you see, the baby's name is written in katakana, but this one's written in kanji, and it's like, ah, yes. Or like, where are you from, Hana? And she probably said like the witch world, or some sort of like very direct answer, and they're like, what does that mean? And then the classic like, oh, the normal characters have to try and cover for her, like, oh, she's just a joker, haha.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes, and I definitely think one of the sort of casualties of the length is episode 9. I'm looking at my notes, and it was like Hazuki episode, and from my notes, I seem to really like it, but again, 2.5 years ago, I kind of don't remember a lot of specifics of that episode for some reason, and definitely not like, you know, the emotion. I'm very now disconnected from like the emotions of it, I guess. So
Yeah,
I mean,
I
guess
remember
yeah.
there, like, the thing about Dokan, but also just like Doremi as it's gotten further into the series is just that it's like more consistently there are like highlight episodes, I think. You know, it's a long running magical girl series, so like there's going to be uh even in like my favorite Precure seasons, there's usually like a stretch of episodes or like a couple episodes here and there where it's like this episode was fine. It wasn't exceptional, but it was fine. And like Dokan still has episodes like that. But it's like we've had 3 seasons of build up to like set up character payoffs, and yeah, this season really hits in on a lot of
it pays
those
off.
beats.
Holy shit, yeah. And yeah, I guess just because you were kind of talking about it, but like you said, you were talking about it on the stream, I guess. But like, the reason it took so long, like, you know, it's you, which is I don't mind. Like, I obviously, because it's like I'm gonna rewatch the show because it's good, and mostly because I do want to sort of like compartmentalize my feelings of it by having watched it all in a closer proximity.
Yeah.
And also rewatch because there was one reveal in particular in the later parts that recontextualizes an entire side character, and I want to rewatch it with that in mind because it was like, what the fuck? Like, and I don't know that it's a major thing, and like it'll make me deeply appreciate things, but it's definitely just like something I want to keep my eye on to see like, when was this decision made? I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, I'm looking, like, I see there was an episode that was, like, focusing on, I think, like, the storytelling girls, or maybe it was a different side character, but it's, like, it becomes, like, the girl turns into a rabbit, and Hana's there, and it's, like, a dream storybook-like sequence.
Yeah, I remember that
I don't want to
yes.
just say, like, Alice in Wonderland, because I don't know that that's right, but it's something. It's been years. It's a reference to something, probably.
I have images in my head of now the Doremi characters doing Alice in Wonderland, but that also could be an entirely figment of my imagination, because my imagination is like, yeah, because that's imagination and memory is just it's very strong, I guess. Like you know, you can. Like there was a experiment done. I only know about it from the film Waltz with Bashir. But basically, they showed people photographs of their childhood, and mixed in were literal fake images, and they were able to convince people that they had been in places that they hadn't actually been just by showing them an image that seemed to be real.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, I remember being at that carnival. No, you don't, because it wasn't a real image. Like you know, it's that's just how the human mind works that way. So just like you mentioned, like maybe there was an Alice in Wonderland like Dory episode of like, well, they did that like for like Aikatsu and like other. I feel like I've seen that elsewhere too.
Yeah.
So it's like I could totally imagine a Doremi Alice in Wonderland thing, like totally, like that's just within the scope of the show, even if it didn't happen at all. I don't know.
I assume that we're at the point in our discussions where we don't really need a spoiler-free section.
Yeah, that's fair. Because I've been kind of like tentative around that, but because we didn't mention it, but that's also
just kind of getting into like vague things.
I haven't watched any Doremi, but I want to listen to your guys' discussion. It's like, why? Go watch it if you don't care. If you care about if you do care about spoilers, rather. Like, what's wrong with you?
I was seeing like I found the episode with like the storytelling girls, and how like I think the Ojamajos were worried like, oh, they're gonna say she's a witch and reveal the secret, and like it just made me think of like a common thread throughout this season in particular. Because you know, Ojamajo Doremi deals with themes of like motherhood and like growing up. Mm-hmm. So with Hana becoming one of the students, you know, she's still like a child, but, you know, now she can kind of get into hijinks with the characters, and we get a lot of Doremi and the gang, like, maybe micromanaging Hana a little bit, or being overprotective.
Yes.
which is
But
like,
she
you
needs
know,
to like grow up and fail on her own merits, right?
Yeah.
Rather than be coddled.
Yeah, so that was kind of a cool thread throughout the season. Yeah, there was that one episode with Hazuki and I don't remember his name, but the boy who plays the trumpet and like the girl.
Yada?
Yeah, and then the girl who was like in the hospital, and Hazuki was kind of like, she seemed like she was jealous or like worried that, you know, that like her childhood friend was gonna move on. And it was a very like well directed episode. A lot of really cool like, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like the lighting and the colors and stuff. It was very, very good. Oh wait, was that the episode where she contemplated like using, right, because someone went to the emergency room and it was like, and I'm like, was that an episode where they contemplated using healing magic? I don't know.
Maybe. I remember that happened very early, like season 1, with Hazuki specifically.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it happened again. It might have. Or maybe yeah. Because I feel like that would have been one of the earlier episodes that it's been a while.
I see a screen cap of another episode where I guess they were dividing up into groups, and Hana goes up to like two of the boys and is like, oh, do you want to be in my group? And they're like, I don't know. And she's like, you don't want to be in my group? And she's given like the puppy dog eyes, and they're like,
Yeah, so one really good episode was the Momo one, where she was like trying to decide what she wants to do in the future.
Yeah.
And that was a banger episode, especially like just the way it ends with the you know, it leaves her just like, because she's like, I want to be, and then it just stops and you see the sky, because there was a motif with that throughout the episode, and just like, oh, you know, we don't see it, but it's because it can be anything, she can do whatever she wants, right? Like that was good. The wrestling girl episode I remember standing out to me, just because it's like, I guess it was interesting because like this is the series, like they're in 6th grade, they're graduating to go to middle school, and so they're hitting that like puberty age, because it turns out like the resolution conflict was like, the boys don't want to wrestle with you because they're growing into their sexuality and they're starting to think of you as a girl, and it's like, oh, okay, that's all right.
So many postcard memories in that episode as well. And I mean, it's about the wrestling girl, so it's like, of course, I'm like, thumbs up.
Yes.
Shout out wrestling and anime. Shout out reverse tombstone pile driver. It's a Boston Crab, you fuckers. I'll never forget.
And that was all. I remember that episode also standing out to me for the direction, and I remember looking up and it's like, oh, this guy did Dragon Ball Super.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just love. I don't know. It's like the Toei crossover is so funny when you think about it in that way, just because it's like, you know, they could do this like cute, a good episode of this cute magical girl show, and also do like the most meathead shit, right? And just nail both, which is, I mean, that said, it is, I guess, a more like, you know, on a spectrum, it's like a half a step towards more closer to meathead just by being about wrestling, I guess you could argue, but
another interesting thing with this season was how they split the Ojamajos into like different classes. So how like in the first, I think it was in the first 3 seasons, there was just the one, but it was going into 6th grade, I think they split it into 2, so it's like there were more characters.
Yes, they were in the. Yes, yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking about that word, because like I think they stuck with the same class until 6th grade. Like, I don't remember. Like, oh no, maybe there was some shuffling around, because obviously, like, I don't remember Kayoko. Yeah, she was in a different class, obviously, until season 3, I think was the season.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, that was definitely season 3. You know, but with this one, it's like, yeah, they shuffled up the classes, so they, all these new characters.
And I feel like what that typically led to was like a character we would have already known from the previous seasons, like pairing up with a newer character maybe, and then like getting different perspectives on the characters from that, like seeing a different side of the other character from how they interact with this new one, and similarities and differences. And another cool thread in this season, like you have the Ojamajos being overprotective of Hana and kind of learning to give her kind of space and let her make mistakes and learn on her own. there's also the thread of Hana kind of learning responsibility and how to, well, yeah, because she's like in line to become the next witch queen, so she's got to learn about humans. And what I really like about a lot of her conflicts is that she's always trying really hard to do the right thing, and like sometimes she would do something that has good, like, positive effects, but she doesn't go about it in the right way. And so, like, one of the episodes I can think of is, like, the Oyajide episode, where, like, he's trying to become...
Pass his test,
Yeah,
right?
he has to pass his test, and Hana tries to help but gets into trouble, so he doesn't pass the test. And, you know, maybe in another series, you know, that it might still work out in the end, that the kindness is rewarded. But I liked how in that episode, you know, it was kind of teaching Hana that, like, actions do have consequences, and it's like, even if things worked out kind of in the end, it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that things are going to go your way every time, or like...
Exactly. Well, that's how I like how that episode was framed, because like you said, Oyajide was rewarded in the end, but Hana didn't see that, right? So as far as Hana knows, Oyajide failed even though he did the right thing. So it's like you kind of get the like you get the best of both worlds, because Hana gets that very valuable lesson, but Oyajide still gets rewarded for, dare I say, being good. Like, I remember when we started the show and Oichi gets good later. I'm like, there's no fucking way. And then I watched, like, I think, that episode in particular, like, I think even in the earlier season, I think he gave like a lullaby to the kids through the piano. And it's like, I was like, fucker, don't you dare. And then that episode happened. It's like, fuck, Oyajide's good. And they were right. So that was funny to witness. And then, the episode with the sort of like the two kids who they both had their dads and in their workplaces, and so they sort of like retreated from that, and the Ojamajos sort of took their place at the bathhouse and the sushi place. That was a fun episode. Just good, just another good conflict with really, relatively minor characters.
Yeah. I see another episode from the class trip where, like, Kotake and the one Akatsuki from the Flat Four, they were, like, feuding over Doremi. But then they get into, like, a little competition, and Akatsuki uses magic to win. And then Doremi, like, she has her whole arc of, like, oh, I want a boyfriend. And so, like, oh, hot boy. But she kind of had a moment of, like, it's not manly to use to cheat to win, to use magic. So it's just like a lot. That's just like the tip of the iceberg with like good Doremi content in this season.
Oh my goodness, yes, that indeed. Another standout episode. I remember watching the preview for it, and I immediately went like, "Oh, I think I have to watch this episode right now." Because I saw, it was the episode where, like, the Tanabata episode, where, like, Orihime and Hikaboshi got into a fight. So she goes, instead of, like, having her yearly date with Hikaboshi, she says, fuck it, and she goes to get squashed at the Mahodo. And that was just, like, such a funny concept to me that I was like, I have to watch this episode right now. Because it's just so silly. Like, she was just in, like, casual wear, just like, hanging out with Baba, and Majorika just like, fuck yeah. just having a fucking her day. Self-care. Just, God. That was funny. Oh, yeah, the episode where they spent time at the old folks' home. Just spending time with them and, sort of, like, oh, but we need to help you. And it's like, no, just companionship is part of the job. Like, honestly, that was another thing in general, because one thing that's changed in the last 2.5 years, as of less than a year ago, almost getting close to a year ago, actually, I started a job in elder care. So it was really weird watching that episode, and even like the later one with Aiko and her grandfather, because I'm like, oh, this is just my job. Like, this is part, like, I do this. I, take care of / be with elders.
Yeah.
Like, I made a joke because, like, when Doremi and Aiko were getting the grandfather out of the wheelchair into the bed, they did so a little roughly. Honestly, like I was like, your transfers could use work because that's something I'm trained on with transferring, to help them move from like their wheelchair to the bed or the wheelchair to the car or vice versa. Um, and so I was like, you guys, I mean, you guys are like 10. You're not trained in this, but also that could have been better. So just a weird incident because it's like I just had this job, so it's not often that I see that represented in me, or even honestly, even working in retail for so long, like characters shop at stores, but it's not super often I see characters working in stores for like long enough periods of time for me to get something out of it. As far as like, oh, you did that. I do remember watching an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond where there was a guy just like buy a thing of oranges. And my parents were watching. I just saw it, and I was like, "What are you doing? You're not stocking anything. Like you're just standing there. Like I work in produce. You should be doing something." And the display was shallow. Like there was barely any oranges in there, and it was flimsy because it was supposed to fall apart for a joke later on. So, I was just bitching. It's stupid, but it's just I don't know. It's always interesting to see your job represented in, especially in anime, I guess, because it's like anime. This thing that's so alien, but it's also not because they're fucking human beings doing human things. So I don't know what I'm getting at.
There was the episode focusing on not Seki Sensei, but the other teacher, where she like was interested in a guy who was at like a pet shop, and so she adopted a dog, and the dog was it Hana? Was the dog?
I think it was Dory, or maybe it was Doremi or Momo.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe it was Hana.
One of those three.
I want to say Doremi or Momo though. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that she just like couldn't talk to the guy and is just disaster girl, and then she wasn't taking care of the dog she adopted because it was all like surface level just to get to see the guy. It was so funny.
Right.
Oh, there's that one episode you would appreciate where it was Super Sentai and Hana was like
Commander Hana. Yes. Ojama Sentai Majorija. Yeah, let's fucking go.
Good I'm just like rapid firing things based on my screen caps. Things I vaguely remember, like the Doremi and Kotake stuff. Like there was the one episode where she like got lost in the woods or like tripped and fell and hurt herself or something on like a team exercise, and so he just like carried her to safety, and then the class had to find him, and there was just good stuff there. Yeah, and then I mean that has like a really cool moment in the last episode too, but we'll get there.
I guess to talk about some things I'm a bit like less enthused about, because like obviously the main thing of this episode or the season was like the queen predecessor and her children and stuff, and those episodes like they're good, but it's like I guess like the queen herself is like super important, I think, for the ideas of the show. And I guess like I do think it's important and meaningful that we see her family and stuff, but it's also like I guess she's not one of my favorite characters in the show, so those episodes tended to be a little bit more like that was good for me instead of like let's go. And then I think definitely like probably the weakest part of this season for me entirely, maybe even the whole show, like I don't remember being so just like before, was just like Pao-chan and some of the ways those episodes would be resolved, I think, because like sure, mascot character, okay, but it's like as far as like Dory mascots go, it's like, well, Pao-chan easily ranks way below like Majorika and Hana, and then just like I remember like watching those episodes, like I think one of the ones we were the most dissatisfied with was like the turtle and rabbit.
Oh yeah,
episode,
that one was weird.
Turtle and hare episode, because it's like they overworked themselves and so now they're tired and exhausted. But instead of having an actual like lesson about that, it's just like Pao-chan sucked in the evil cloud caused by the Witch Queen, and they're fine now. So it's like they're kind of just doing
like normally the kind of theme of the show is that magic can't solve everything, that you can solve everyday problems without magic. But in like that episode, for example, the solution was just it was magic affected them, so magic is the solution.
Yeah, so it just felt really weird because it was kind of like just like this isn't really what the show is about, right? And it just doesn't lead to a satisfying conclusion when, especially when like in that, because I think it felt not as badly in comparison to the Reika episode, but I definitely had that same kind of like feeling of like, oh, they're just resolving the conflict with magic and not really addressing like sort of what the conflict is about, right? Like, because the obvious thing is like with like overtraining, it's like, oh, you actually need to like spend time and relax, and that's like part of how you can get stronger like that, because your body needs to be more like, I fucking a major did that, like I'm pretty sure, or some sports I've seen it in sports stuff before for sure, because it is very real, because if you overtrain and hurt yourself, right, like your body does need rest, so it's like, oh, is that what they're doing? And then no, it's not really what they're doing. Okay, weird. I lost my thread there. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's just like a couple like dissatisfying episodes, and an overall like it doesn't really matter when like after like those episodes is like some of the best shit in the entire show. So it's like, I can't be too bad when they followed up like that with just like peak. So oh well, right? Like, what am I gonna do? Whine more?
Cry harder.
Yeah. Cry harder, just because I don't like the elephant that much. Yeah, I don't know how many other, like, obviously I'm sure there's some really good episodes that we're not talking about. That's the thing. It's Doremi. Like, every episode is like good, I think. Like, even those are like disappointing. Like, they're disappointing, but it's also they're disappointing in the context of Doremi. Right?
Yeah, so it's like, oh
like,
no, it was like a 6 out of 10 episode in a series that has a lot of like higher.
Oh no, there's only 201 or 200 other episodes of the show. Even if this is like, even if I decided this is the worst one, I can't really be too mad when it's like, oh god, this one bite out of my all-you-can-eat buffet wasn't good. Right? Like, that's kind of what it feels like to complain about Doremi.
There was another Hana episode where she had like the like doing something right but not in the right way, where she like encountered the girl who was very focused on like being a good girl and not wanting to like get in the way of like she wasn't voicing her wants and needs because like, oh, well, my parents have to do this thing, so I should just let them do that. And then Hana, her solution to that was like, well, it's clearly bothering you, so I'll go, if you can't talk to them about it, I'll go talk to them for you. And, that obviously made the girl really upset, because it's like, oh, they're gonna hate me. And then, Hana had to learn that, like, you can't, while, like, it's good to be direct about things, you can't just be direct about everything and like solve people's problems for them. I guess in that way, when I think about it, that could kind of be similar to like magic. Like, you can't just use magic to solve other people's problems or to heal their wounds. So when it comes to something like that, where it's a lot more complicated, it's like, even if Hana did the right thing by like helping her friend out and getting her on the same page with her parents, it's still like she did have to learn to go about things a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to look at my list and see if there's any other episodes that I did not talk about.
There was an Onpu episode with the actress lady. It had a cool poster in it. It was a good episode.
Yeah, no, I think I have some notes that I remember the episode with her and her, like, kind of like her mom, I guess, like touching on why her mom, or I don't know, I just like her getting into the bit, or what was the line, or maybe it was another actress, actually. Yeah, I forgot. It's been a while. Yeah, Clara was the other actress. That's probably the one you were talking about. Never mind, I misremembered. Or maybe not. I don't know. I don't. I don't remember. We watched that episode too. That was one of the earlier ones we watched, I think. But oof.
I thought I had more screen caps, but like, because we were group watching, there's a chunk where I don't have any, and then we get to like the the first Hosoda directed episode, and then suddenly I have a ton of screen caps.
Because even if you didn't take them while we were watching, you're probably like, you probably learned very quickly where it's like, oh god, oh no, we're here. This is it. I need to take pictures.
Eventually, I got to a point where, like, I just had my finger ready on the screen cap button. I can't pause, so I'm just gonna take a bunch.
Oh, that last episode must have been fun for you, because you're, like, trying to watch through the tears, but also take screen caps. And like occasionally talk with me, because we'll get to the last episode. I'll wait on that. But yeah, I guess we should start with episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go episode by episode for these last ones, but there's definitely obviously a few that I definitely we'll talk about.
Yeah.
We'll probably bring up all of them, but definitely, let's start with episode 40, because I mean, like, it's not the first step, because I think even actually, you know what, episode 38, I remember that was the episode building up to like Aiko and her parents getting together, I think. And I just remember that episode standing out to me because it, like, just the way it framed Aiko's character with her, because she is kind of like the most mature one in the group, and there was a moment when, like, she was talking to her parents and she was like, "It's okay, I'll be fine." Like, and I think her mom started crying after that, because like Aiko is the one being an adult in the room with her parents, but it's like it was her parents' circumstances that kind of forced her to grow up. And and I was just thinking about how it's like, oh, that's why her relationship with Doremi and her friends is so valuable, because this is a space where she can just be a kid, right? Where she can have that youth that she kind of isn't. Like, even when she's at home with her dad, like, she's sort of taking on the mother role, right? She's the one making food and stuff a lot of the time, right? She doesn't get to just, like, flop on the couch and watch TV, right? That's not something she has the privilege of because of her family circumstances. And I just remember that really go like, fuck, because it was, it hurt me. But I did notice that one in my notes. But then shortly after that we get the episode 40, which was the first Hosoda episode. Unless you had anything to say about Aiko before, if you want.
I mean, we have another episode to get to.
Fair. But yeah, episode 40, what went hard? It started off with Doremi mentioning how it's like, oh, I wonder if I'll understand this when I get older, or I understand what Mirai said when I get older. And I just think that's kind of interesting, because, like, I feel like with stuff aimed at younger audiences, like, obviously, like, literally most of our stuff on this channel is dedicated to talking about things aimed at younger audiences, because it's either the Nono show, where it's like, preteen girls, or the Nen show, where it's like preteen and older boys. So it's all meant to be for younger audiences. But I think what's interesting is because I feel like say with something like One Piece or Bleach, like, it has a very surface level, like, understanding and appeal. I think, like, they're stories that anyone can understand, but obviously if you dig into them, there's a lot of stuff there. And I think Magical Girl shows have that too. But I just find, I think maybe because it's aimed at such a young audience, when you have something like episode 40 where it's presented in a way that's not really meant to be understood to children, it's just fascinating to me, because I can just imagine someone watching this episode as a kid not really getting it, but just having it stand out, because it's visually different, it's tonally different, it doesn't feel like it is Doremi, but it doesn't quite feel like Doremi, right? And then watching it as an adult and just having that click moment, right? Because, like, even watching it as an adult, I feel like I could watch it again and get even more out of it, because, like, I feel like it was just so layered with more just, like, subtlety, and like it's fucking Hosoda. Like, I don't know how, like, it surprised me with how good it was, because it's like, yeah, I like Hosoda's stuff, but it's like fuck. Like, obviously,
the what I really liked in that episode, and then also I think it was present in the other Hosoda episode, just, like, the use of physical spaces, and like they establish a few key, like, they establish, like, Doremi is at this crossroads and she goes down this path, and we like follow her on the route to this person's, like, home, and we are really, like, given time to take in the details of, like, the route to get there, and then later we see Doremi, like, running through it desperately and like about to lose that. It's like that like the temporality of, like, physical spaces, I think, was how how I had thought of it. That, like, you know, it's at a point in the series where all these characters are going to be moving on to different things, and, you know, time is always going to move on. Things don't last forever. So, like, getting us very, like, intimate with these, like, physical locations with the crossroads, and that crossroads comes up again in a later episode in its peak. But yeah, like, that visual component of it is really cool. There was also the image of, like, the green leaf in a tree, in, like, an autumn tree where everything else is turning different colors, to, like, visualize how Doremi might be a little behind everyone else in terms of, like, knowing what she wants to do, or, like, where she's going and what her future holds, but, like, you know, she's still, like, living her life, and, you know, she can go at her own pace.
No, it's like that episode of 49 are just so well put together, I think, because it's like not just like having these interesting motifs, but having them like being layered together, right? Like, I think I remember when we were talking about episode 49, because there was like the cold and the stairs, and the way the blocking of, like, that we'd sort of see like a window pane or something, like blocking off the like, just and the way, he'd layer those motifs together in the episode, and that, like, or in this one you also have the reflections, or
and the glass,
or being shown through, like, somehow warped through a glass, or something, that's, which, is like, which, you kind of think of, like, the Dorothy has, like, so many different ways her future can go, and or even in the moment she's just feeling kind of like, well, like, all over the place, maybe, but yeah, even, I will say, Shapes, name call it jump scare for someone I know who will be listening, is, no, it's not his fault at all, but I was listening to Piss Pirates, and at the end of one of the episodes, he spoiled Dokan's ending for me, and it's like, well, I could have stopped listening, so it's not his fault, it's my fault, like, but it's like, I was into the discussion, and I kind of wanted to hear it, because he was basically talking about how he thinks the One Piece ending will go the way of Doremi, where the group splits up in the end, and so, but I will say, having that in mind, watching the last episodes, actually, like, I picked up on that very early in episode 40, because, like, one of the first scenes is Doremi at the crossroads with, I think it was Aiko and Momoko, or it was two of her friends, who are different from the two friends because that scene occurred later, but yeah, they went off on their own roads, and Doremi was still on her own, right? Like, which I just, like you said, they brought that motif in later, but for me, who, like, knew about how it was ending, I was like, oh, this is what they're doing here. I better stay completely silent so as to not tip Mathwiz off. But so that was a good one. And just, like, Mirai was interesting, of just, like, she's a witch, but she she has these relationships with humans, but also it's like, her being a witch is kind of like a barrier. Like, she has to lie to, like, one of the humans she's known for a long time and say, oh, I'm the daughter, oh, I'm the granddaughter, even though I look identical to my grandma, right? And she doesn't even really use magic, or I even, made the comment that, it's one of the themes of the show, where it's like the real magic is, or I think especially with this season having, even, I mean, honestly, every season, right? Like, they're making things, right? Like, they're making crafts, or they're making sweets, or they're nurturing plants, or they're making crafts again, but, like, more advanced crafts, like weaving and stuff. And so, like, Dorothy tries her hand at glass blowing in this episode, and it's like the real magic is what you can do with your own hands, right? Not with actual magic. So yeah, and just, like, Dorothy's, like, trying to figure shit out, because, like, even though, like, she was given this opportunity that she ultimately didn't take, but like, no matter what, like, the future's gonna come, and it's fine for Doremi to go at her own pace, and it's like, yeah. Because it's just so perfect for Doremi too, because she's like the clumsiest, she's the slowest one, like, especially with the Pop contrast from way back, where Pop is just better than her, even though she's, like, so much younger in so many ways.
Yeah.
But Doremi it's fine for her to be the way she is, right? So, God.
Yeah, and, like, the Hosoda episodes also, I feel like, pulled back the music a lot. Like, there would be longer stretches of just kind of silence, or, like, ambient background noise, and just, like, taking in the like emotions and atmosphere of a scene. And I feel like Hosoda also does a lot with like symmetrical storyboarding
Yes, I especially
of
noticed that in
just like
49, right?
yeah, like, Doremi standing in front of the crossroads. There's a shot where like they're sitting at a table, like looking out into the yard, and they're both just like silhouettes, and it's just all very striking framing. Um, but you mentioned Pop and how Pop is like better than Doremi. Well, then immediately after that was an episode about, what's Pop's future gonna look like? Why did, she has the opportunity to become a witch before everyone else somehow. And she she isn't sure what to do because everything she's done has just been copying Doremi. So like it's really interesting seeing that perspective when from Doremi's view it's like, oh well, I am clumsy and I mess up a lot of the time, so like I'm not as good as everyone else. But then she, just being the older sibling, Pop like of course idolizes her and looks up to her. So just kind of like seeing Doremi's uncertainty and then seeing Pop's immediately after, it was good.
Yeah, and that episode, yeah, no, that was a nice episode. I don't think I have that much to say about it, but oh yeah, then we got the one with Hazuki and her mom. Uh, with that was good.
Yeah, that one I also liked. For just getting the different perspectives of like Doremi trying to help, almost kind of like being in Hana's role from that one episode with the girl and her parents. Like Doremi's trying to help make sure that Hazuki speaks her mind, but she also like apologizes that like, hey, I might have been speaking more from what I want and not putting your needs like first. Um, and it was just, yeah, it was really cool. Hazuki kind of like being caught between and having to make her own decisions, and it's been a long character arc building to that point, and how she like went to talk to several different people, like Yada, and he was just like, you have to make your own decisions, like no one can tell you what to do here.
Right, which is like exactly her problem, and she's just sort of leaning into that by like, oh, I'm gonna go to other people, but just not my mom. And it's like, we're still going to you're still letting other people decide for you, right? And oh god, it's into episode 49 too. Fuck. Oh shit. No, I remember I remember we were like, there wasn't that much Hazuki content this season for at least like a couple times. Even though I remember, at least like even just aesthetically, or maybe yeah, she was like one of my favorites from the start. Because like she's really cute, she's got a good hairstyle and big dumb glasses. I like big dumb round glasses. She's silly. But then I remember, maybe that like, and now this we got like fucking 2 episodes late into the show with the Hazuki. It's like, okay, I'm not. And James was teasing us about that. It's like there's a whole subtle episode later, and it's like, yeah, but that's gonna be a while off, and it turned out to be even more of a while off than it's intended. But
Yeah,
it was very good. Man.
there was the Momo episode where she is contemplating like whether to go back to America. Oh god, I just love the way that all of the different character motivations and threads like resolved in the end, that it's like the reason they became, and that's just such a good, I guess, like thing to do with a magical girl series like this. Like, oh, what was your motivation to become a magical girl? And it's like for the Doremi characters, they were able to resolve all of those motivations without magic.
Yeah, which obviously is directly mentioned in like the second to last episode, I think, when Hana, or like, cause like, oh, don't.
Oh yeah,
don't
how she goes to every character.
It's like, don't you want to become a witch? And it's like, well, I don't need to be a witch. Like I already got.
Yeah.
I found everything I wanted just through my own power. And it's like, yeah, let's go.
But yeah, Momo's episode being that like she's not sure if she wants to go back to America with her family or stay with her friends. And when she first got there, she was like afraid to leave America because of leaving her friends behind. But then she made friends in Japan, so now it's like she has friends in both places and pursuing her dreams and stuff.
Yeah. There's also the finale episodes with the actual like main plot of the Queen predecessor. Which just like yeah, like resolving her arc of just, like her being this sort of being beyond humanity and like having this pain from these connections and then coming to understand the truth. Yeah, it definitely, I mean, again, like it's not necessarily focused on the parts of the show I love the most, so it's like probably my least favorite part of this big stretch, but it's still good. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember even thinking about it, it was like, huh, she has descendants in the human world, so shouldn't there be like a lineage? Shouldn't she have like people still around who are her, and then that becomes like a thing with the big tapestry and that they remade, and it's like, oh, cool. I like what I'm on the same wavelength with the show. Because that turned out to be a very big thing, in fact, and the fact that they still valued this connection to their, they still have like witch magic in their blood occasionally with like the kid who can talk to animals, which is how Anpu found him, right? So yeah, that
Yeah.
was nice.
Oh, and then also the recurring thread of all of these individual character episodes that like, oh, Doremi was like my first friend, like Momo, Ampu, Aiko, Hazuki,
Oh,
and so it's like they all feel like they have to go to Doremi, and like, Momo tells Doremi first about how she's gonna go back to America, and um, you know,
mm-hmm.
Aiko talking about the stuff with her parents, and like, oh, but like, the grandfather even says like, well, you'll have to leave your friends behind if you move,
Mm-hmm.
and who did Aiko go to? It was Doremi, and
Yeah, God,
yeah,
I'm just tearing up thinking about it. Where it's like, because it's like she's everybody's best friend, but obviously that doesn't necessarily extend to her value, like feeling good about herself, especially when everybody's still leaving her, right? Um,
yeah.
but like because she's Hazuki's childhood friend, it's like fuck, fuck, fuck.
And then
uh,
we also got in the Aiko episode the little like ending note, which I guess kind of ties into like how Aiko kind of had to grow up faster than everyone else to like be almost like take on a lot of motherly roles and like making food and trying to take care of her dad and stuff. um so like you get kind of the little like the princess and the prince kind of dancing at the end where like or not Hazuki, Aiko's in the dress and Doremi's the one like, oh, may I have this dance,
yeah, she's
and
got
it's
the
it's
Otsuko
peak.
Yaku going on.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yes, the because it definitely has that like Takazuka. I think there's even the one Takazuka character, um, who like has that similar kind of outfit early, or Hazuki wants to put her in that outfit early. Like that was like season 1 or 2. That was wild. Holy shit. But yeah, all good episodes. And then we get the Hazuki episode, and it's just like. Oh, because I think I remember because we watched the Momo episode then, and I was like, that was a good episode. Then we watched the Aiko episode. It's like, the Momo episode is good, but I think the Aiko episode might be better. And we watched the Hazuki episode. It's like, well, just fuck me, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. Time to die emotionally. Because yeah, like God. There was a gag. I just like I opened the episode. I'm just like looking through it. I love when just early on when Reika like puts her shoes in the shoe locker, like, but they're like
Oh
gigantic
yeah.
boots. Because I think you missed it. I don't know if you went back and watched it. But then like as she's walking away, the shoe locker kind of like belches out the shoe, and she doesn't notice it. Like just as it's panning to the side, so it is kind of easy to miss, and it's just like the timing of it is so funny because it's just such like a secondary thing. But I don't know. I just saw that. It's like that's like one of the least important parts of the episode, but it's also so funny. I had to bring it up. But yeah, just like Hazuki, she's making her choice, and it's not what her mother wants, so therefore it's her choice. But it's like, but she kind of it's not what she wants, right? And like the
Yeah.
ways again, especially like the space as you mentioned with how Hostada uses it is like because I think the stairway was a really interesting motif. I think because you pointed out how it's like like because Doremi like you were the one who pointed out to me is that because Doremi always she's on Hazuki's level or she's going down or coming up from like below, like she's always going
Yeah.
downstairs or coming from downstairs, right? And I sort of made that association with class because it's kind of it's Hazuki is from a higher class of person, right? Like she's a wealthier family, she's going to a school that is outside of the reach of most of the people that she interacts with in the show, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought of that as like, because you were pointing out in like the way of like, oh, Doremi is like, yeah, because Doremi is always either on her level or she is of a lower class, and Hazuki wants to go to this higher class school. But of course, like the other motif that they layer it with, because is the coldness, because like with Doremi she's warm, like she comments that multiple times, but when she's on her own she's cold, right? But it's like Doremi is this place of comfort for her because she's her friend. Like they've been friends for so long. Like I think she even mentions how she wouldn't have gotten into playing the violin and loving that if not for Doremi, right? If not for for having this experience of playing alongside someone else instead of playing alone. But because she has that love of violin, she doesn't. At the end of the day, even though she wants to stay in this place of warmth, she wants more to go out into the cold of being alone at this higher class school, because so she could follow her dream of becoming a violinist, right? And it's just so well put together. It's like fuck. And also the way in that last performance scene you see the reflection of Doremi on the piano, because it's a reflection of a possible future where she could become a piano player. It's building off of the motif from episode 40. Hosada, you fucking crazy person, how dare you? Like, you piece of shit. God. And yeah, like you were pointing out the symmetry, like I remember the one with they were like, we see them from outside the window, and it's like they're kind of like opposed at first, because Doremi is like, oh yeah, you're coming to this middle school, right? And then Hazuki comes over to that side of the frame. She's like, yes, I am coming to that middle school. Which she's so stupid. Every time Doremi's, hey, can you pass the butter? No, I am going to the middle school you want me to go to. And it's like, calm down, you erratic child. God, so good.
And then they all do the music performance together. And yeah, like, cause that's so perfect too, because like Ojamajo Doremi has always had like its insert songs that are always like sung by the characters, which I guess makes sense, do re mi, it's music stuff. But like it's such a good, just a good way of bringing all the characters together and like culminating in this big emotional moment with a piece of music that's called Friends.
Yeah.
Oh, and then it gets real crazy in the last episode when like the entire class is singing one of the songs, and it's like, no, don't do this to me.
Oh God, yeah. See, like episode 50. I mean, it's like you can't follow episode 49. Like you just can't. It's impossible. But episode 50 had the fucking. Oh wait, I forgot to mention it before, but actually when they were, I think the possibly the funniest joke, and at least the one that got the best laugh out of me, you heard the laugh, we were watching it together, was when they broke the witch frog curse. And so it's like Mathwiz turns into a witch, and then it goes to the eye catch, and it comes back. And I was even making making or about to make a joke at the same time of like, and then she turns back into a witch frog. Fuck you, because fuck you. And then they do that. Like I thought it was funny because it was absurd, and there's no way they would do that, but they did do that, and that just made it even funnier because I fucking lost it. Holy shit! Like it was so stupid. It was so perfect. And of course, I was glad, because there was a part of me that's like, they're not just gonna keep her a witch frog. She's not just gonna be the only witch frog, right? And it's like, no, she did become a witch by the end. She's going back home to the witch world, and she's leaving the Mahodo. But like that brief moment of like, fuck you. No, she's a witch forever. She's a witch frog forever. It's just hilarious. Fucking hilarious. I remember that because I was scanning through episode 50 and I saw that them in the throne room, and the witch queen was fucking Yuki Sensei the whole time. Are you fucking kidding me? There was a reason she was hiding her face. It wasn't just like an aesthetic choice. It was like, if we saw her eyes, we might have seen that, oh, she looks kind of like Yuki Sensei with different hair and no glasses. Because it's like, she took off her mask and I'm like, oh, okay. And then she put on the glasses and I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't there a teacher at the school? No fucking way. And then... Oh,
did you ever look up to see if the voice actress was the same?
Oh, no, I did not. Because that would have made it really obvious if I looked up the VA, I think.
Because, like, if there had to have been foreshadow... Like, what I'm really curious about with something like that is, like, at what point did they decide that would be... Because, like, I imagine with... no sources, nothing I say matters here. But like I just would make like an assumption that the first season they probably didn't know that they were going to be doing this for 4 seasons.
Right, of course.
So like at what point in the process did they decide to make the connection between the nurse and the queen? And it's like, now I'm also like, well,
they've had the
nurses,
same voice actress since the beginning. They've had the same. They're both voiced by Imai Yuka.
Maybe they did know then.
Damn it, those bastards. And they were both in season 1, so it's like, that
something about nurses do healing and magic.
That's
but
right.
Magic can't heal.
Oh my god, you're right. She's took a profession in the one thing that magic just literally cannot do. Fuck. Yeah, see, that's one of the. I mean, I think the main reason I want to rewatch the show is because I want to like sort of just compartmentalize my feelings, because it's like, I watched season 1, it's like, that was pretty good, but now it's like I love these characters more, so I feel like I'd enjoy the whole season more, and getting to watch it at my own pace, and just like, apparently paying attention to Yuki and the Queen and seeing that they're the same and just making more connections, because that was a good one that I didn't think about until you just said it, right, and gave that to me just now. And, I do also have a video in mind because I want to talk about like the intersection of magic girls and capitalism in general. Like, I think Zaria did do a video on it, but it's not like visible anymore, specifically with Doremi. But I want to talk about it more broadly because obviously it's like selling toys is a very important part of magical girl shows. Like Ihoba's blog even talks about how Himitsu no Ako-chan having the compact that she uses to transform as like merchandise was game changing, because even like Tokusatsu show, like Ultraman didn't do transforming devices before then, even though they had them. They exist like in the show, like the first Ultraman, he does use that, but that wasn't like a big deal merchandise wise until after Himitsu no Ako-chan, and then you had like Kamen Rider and Super Sentai sell, those shows started later selling like belts and stuff and transforming devices, and that became a huge thing. Right, so so I want to talk about. I also want to talk about Madoka, and maybe I pick up some things from Happiness Charge. I might compare that, but Happiness Charge Precure specifically. But it's just a general. Obviously, I need to do like some other watching and rewatching and reading to do that video. But I just but this is the other reason, just of like, because that's just such a. I just never saw it coming. I never thought about it as being a possibility. And even if they did share a voice actress, I wouldn't immediately assume that they're the same person, because like, especially for Toei properties, like characters sharing voice actors isn't that unusual. Like, I'm watching One Piece right now, and I've encountered 3 characters voiced by God, holy shit, I don't remember her name. Why? I love her though. Otani Ikue. The voice actress for in One Piece, she mostly voices Chopper. In Doremi, she voices Hana. So again, it's like Toya crossover there. But she also like, I've literally already seen her twice in One Piece, and not as Chopper. She voiced young Sanji and a character in Adventure in the Ocean's Naval, the TV special. So it's like, so having it, like, they're not connected characters. So having a 2 characters in a long-running show be voiced by the same person doesn't feel that weird to me. But in this case, it does turn out to be incredibly meaningful. So it's like, okay, fuck you. So anyway, but yeah, this episode was good because it had this sort of like capping off Hana's arc in a sense of just like, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, these girls don't want to become witches. You have to spend more time in the witch world that you're going to become the future queen of, and just sort of resolving this long-standing conflict of the show. And this sort of separation between Hana and her mommies, and it was good. I did laugh when she turned into a baby, because it's been 2.5 years since we saw the episode in which she turns into a girl, right? So when she's like going through the door and she like turns into a baby, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, there is that one part where like she does some kind of magic and it undoes her like physical, or they do the magical stage, and then she goes back to being a baby, and she's like, no, I can't go to graduation, and the witch queen is like, no, it's okay, I'll restore it. But then at the end with the
time to talk about the last episode. That is just like, oh, hey, you're enjoying the show so far? we're gonna kill you.
Yeah.
We're going to murder you.
Like,
they will not find the body. Jesus
Episode
Christ.
50 was so like I feel like the last stretch of like 7 or 8 episodes all kind of had different moments where it's like I'm crying or tearing up or something. But then the last 2 episodes, like episode 50 was like, oh, okay, this hurts. This hurts. Like all the girls having to like
Crying,
leave Hana,
yeah.
and that when Hana was like, oh, why are you being so selfish? Like, don't you want to stay with me? And Doremi's like, of course we do.
Mm-hmm.
But like they're trying to move forward and like connect the worlds, and it's got that passing the torch and like the next generations that'll come after us. Like maybe our grandchildren or our great grandchildren will be able to, the witch world and the human world can like intersect, and they'll be more accepting of it. But then like episode 51 it does it again. It does it again, but more.
Well, it hits you right at the start, and then it just kind of keeps going. And just keeps going. Oh no. Yeah, it's rough, buddy. Because it's yeah. So well, I remember making the comparison to the surprise party episode of Doremi, because like the whole episode focuses on Doremi just sort of like feeling lonely and feeling bad about herself, but this one, like, because that one was resolved with just this nice big gesture. This one was resolved with a bunch of individual gestures that's tying together like basically the whole show. Like when they brought up Kayako, I was like, no. You can't do this to me. No, like one of the most emotional parts of the whole show, and you're just gonna have her come out and talk about how much she matters, Dory matters to her, because we've seen it for over the course of like 3 or 4 episodes before. And it's like, and some of the other minor characters, and obviously all the Reika, the fucking Kotake, the Ojamajos, the fucking. Her parents, and there's even jokes in there too, like when her parents bring out the steak,
and just the head turn, the very like fluid motion.
Oh, it didn't work. And it's like where I'm like, I still have tears in my eyes, but also I'm laughing. That episode was fun to group watch, because like I'm sure you heard me choke up when I was like talking occasionally. But I would talk and I would receive dead air in return, or like there'd be a long silence and there'd be a slightly water like, because I'm like, oh, your deep silence is because you're fucking crying your eyes out, aren't you? And you're like, deep silence, I
think I was kind of just like, oh fuck, that was a lot.
Because you did.
Well, because it's like, I remember, I feel like my favorite episode from Molto was the birthday party episode that focused on Doremi and how like, she's just a character who tries to do so much for others, but yet, like, it's the same appeal that I got from watching Hugto Precure, like, 5 or 6 years ago, and Hana being, like, the Genki girl who tries really hard to support other people and be energetic, and, like, optimistic, but doesn't have a very high opinion of herself, because, like, all she knows how to do is support other people. And so, like, getting that, like, thrown back at me again, like, 5 or 6 years later but, like, with Doremi, there's more to it, because it had been, like, slowly building over time, and how initially, in the first season, when we see her, she comes off as very selfish and very, like, vain, that she's like, oh, I want a boyfriend, I love steak, I'm the world's unluckiest pretty girl, but then, like, it all... like, by the time we're here in this last episode, it's like, no, she's actually the most selfless, because she is there to be everyone's best friend and, like, help everyone when they don't have anyone. She'll be there to reach out the hand.
The fucking flashback scene with the little boy who was, like, bullying the girl who Doremi was protecting. Then he gets hurt, and she casts a spell to make him stop hurting. And she's like, oh, man, I want to be a witch because I want to cast magic because magic can help people. But it's like, no, you already have the magic inside of you. You already care about others. You're already able to, like, help people without magic. She just doesn't respect herself. She doesn't see it. Ah!
Yeah.
Why? God, and the use of the music was really good, because like they finished the whole well, first you get fucking Hana about to like use her magic in front of everybody, reveal her secret, and that terrifies Doremi, and finally like, gets her to come out. But the way like Hana just hugs her because like Hana, like she tricked her mom.
Oh yeah,
and,
and just like the like caught ya.
Yeah. And then you have when they go to the graduation ceremony, you have the ending theme playing, but it's like everybody's singing it because like it's very normal like for everybody to be singing like the school song at a graduation. So like that. Oh, like was it always the school song? I don't remember, but it's like that cool. Okay, I didn't need to be alive right now, I guess, because you killed me. And then like that was good, and then they of course play like the original opening.
Yeah.
And do a montage of that, and it's like, you just, why are you like this? Stop, I can't take it. You've been doing this for the last 20 minutes, I can't take it anymore. I mean, they do give you the breather of the regular ending theme. It's just like a very normal, like, yep, here's the normal visuals. So I which is interesting because I feel like normally for like, like it's not normal for a show to like play the, or if they don't run the ending theme, they'll have like I think like show like ReZero does it a few times. I just watched it, and like I think My Wife Has No Emotions this season. I feel like maybe it was another seasonal. I'm forgetting, but they'll like just kind of keep playing the episode, and they'll have the credits and songs sort of faintly over, like the credits over it, and song faintly playing underneath it, right? But they'll kind of just skip the ending. But this show, like they just did the ending like normal as a way to sort of give you an emotional break. Right, and then they did the last few minutes of the episode with the last montage and just the ending. So no, you can cry again now, which is like, you bastards. So like that was just a really clever decision, I think. Holy shit.
Oh, and the moment with Hatsuki too, where like she had her whole episode of like Doremi kind of pushing her to move on and move forward. But when Doremi, like, locked herself away, that Hazuki's like, if you're not gonna graduate, then I'm not going to either. And, like, because it's like, she was the first friend, and just, like, all the stuff about, Doremi saying, like, pointing out all these flaws about herself, like, I'm clumsy, and there's not a single good point about me, but then, like, everyone else just showing, like, how much her kindness affects the people around her, and just... God.
Yeah, I mentioned this. It also reminded me of like one of my favorite episodes of Hidamari's sketch, where Hiro is like having anxiety about graduating because she wants to stay at school with her friends, and like she when going through career so everything, she's like, oh, I want to become a teacher, and then Yoshinoya is talking with her about, it's like, do you want to become a teacher because you actually want to become a teacher, or do you just want to be, because if you come back to school, like your friends aren't going to be here. Right, like what is it that you really want? And just like, right, so that's one of my favorite episodes of Hidamari sketch. So they're just doing that, but at a different scale and in a different context. But I was thinking about, because there was a line early on in the episode where Dory's mother mentioned how girls get really sentimental about graduation, and that was an interesting. Because I've been thinking about graduation probably for years, honestly, because I even mentioned the idea way back in my old Danganronpa videos about how sort of building on this sort of, I guess, overall thing I've just been thinking about of graduation.
Anytime I think of the concept of graduation in Japan, I just think of Danganronpa.
Exactly, right, because it is such this, like it just feels so much more culturally important in Japanese media as I've seen, because I feel like when I even made the comparison in my recent Danganronpa video where it's like I sort of talk about like in Invincible, the clip, which is the show that I used a clip of to represent a sort of Western graduation. It's like this. It is notable, but it's not the end of the season. It's not this like it is with Hidamari's sketch, like it is with K-On!, right? It's or like it is with Doremi, or like it is with the first Danganronpa game, right? It's just like he's moving on to a different stage of his life now. It's going to continue, right? And now he's can do more things as an adult. It's not that it doesn't feel as like personally significant as it does in, like, because it's not even just Doremi, it's like Hugtro Precure sort of deals with that sort of anxiety of Guess Precure 5 also does the exact same thing, which is really funny because it's like these are shows about like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Like your future is endless, like that there's lyrics in the opening and ending, like, and they go through like the different, like, like just like the fact that Homura's, I think, no, wait, Homare, the yellow one, I think that was like her design has like a flight attendant vibe, right? Because like, and,
yeah,
because she's a a flying motif, and that's a job that a woman can have, right? And the first ending theme even lists through a bunch of like careers in the thing, like that's a whole thing. But like how do they frame the antagonists, right? In both of those shows, they're salarymen at a black company. Like that's the worst possible like career path you can take, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the anxiety of like, I don't want to do that. I want to do something like fulfilling, but it's like, I don't know if I can do that, right? Or yeah, with Danganronpa or even Persona 1 have this sort of like, like, oh, graduating is scary because like for the similar anxieties, Eden of the East sort of takes it from the perspective of like their college graduates on being like sort of living the anxiety of being unable to find a place in modern Japan where they're not able to find a job at all, or let alone not a good, like the one character has an interview, it doesn't go very well, right? And it just like, even though they're very talented college graduates, that like if these guys can't succeed, no one can, right? So it's just like, but then specifically the way Doremi's mom framed it as it's for girls, it's more sentimental, just made me think about how like, oh, the ones that really present these like Persona and Danganronpa are presenting it as important, but they're not like emotional in the same way, where like Hidamari Sketch and K-On! Are like, we're gonna fuck you up, okay? Like, your emotions, we're going to break them, right? And Doremi this show is very much the same way, right? It also ties to something Akiko Sugawa Shimada talks about in, I might have fucked up the last name order because I think she has two last names, but she talks about it in her 300-page paper on magical girls, where I'll link it to you, Mathwiz, so that you can put it in the description. Where she talks about how graduation is kind of important, and one of the points she mentioned I just think about a lot is that like for magical girl shows, a lot of the reason they end off in ways of like even the first two seasons of Doremi, or the first like spoilers, the first season of Sailor Moon, they lose their powers, even though there's no like. It's very transparent about it though, because it's like you see those shows literally have a next episode preview of the next season. So it's like, it's not like you're gonna like, oh my god, I need to watch the next episode. How are they gonna continue the show? No, it's like, what's happening, right? They're gonna get their powers back, right? Like, but by doing that, they allow the kids watching it to sort of have this moment where they can go, do I want to keep watching this show for children, or do I want to graduate from magical girls, right? Which I think is important, like, because like for Doremi, it's like, magic isn't. It's a form of childish play, but it's not something to like live it with, to rely on necessarily, right? I also think it applies to where I think Magica is going, because I think that it's also kind of my argument for why, like, because people say like, oh, Madoka hates magic girls and it thinks or whatever, but my argument for like why it's framing magic as like a negative. And it's honestly kind of because it has similar messages to Doremi. It just has slightly different presentation, where it's like you're supposed to grow out of magic, right, as you grow up, right? Not that magic girl's evil or bad. It's like it's childish, and that's part of what Monika's about, like this childish failure and growing up, like Doremi, honestly. So that's just a comment that added to my gradually growing understanding of how graduation is framed in Japanese media, because this is very much an important example of just like leaning into it emotionally, like again K-On! And Hidamari Sketch as mentioned. Oh god, sorry, that was a lot.
No, it was all really interesting.
Okay. But yeah.
It's just like, because I remember like going through the first season of Doremi and it doing that. And then, like, in the second season, I don't know if it's that they were going to lose their witch powers, but there was, like, something with Hana, and, like... So that the season would end on, like, that kind of note, where it's not maybe a cliffhanger, but it makes more sense when you frame it like that.
Yeah, because they also do a goodbye, and a lot of Precure shows don't really have them losing their powers in the same way, because, like, there's going to be crossover stuff later, but they still have had, like, the goodbye, like, Hugto and Star Twinkle both ended with goodbyes, right, where there's sort of this parting of the mundane and the magical. So there's still a level of it's over, basically, right? And a level of parting from magic, even if like Precure kind of really doesn't do that necessarily, and which is really funny because I especially like with the crossover movies, it's funny because it's like, oh, bye Lulu and Emiru. Oh wait, or by Lulu specifically, but it's like, oh wait, but we have like 50 crossover movies we have to be in after this. How does that work? The answer: they don't fucking explain it because it doesn't matter. So yeah. Anyway, but spoilers for Octo Precure. It starts with Precure, I guess. Shit, I didn't think about that. But anyway,
No, we've already covered them. They're in
that's
the
right.
Nono Show canon.
They're in the canon. That's how that works. But yeah. So I guess, do you have anything more to say on the final episode or final season in general, or shall we get to more general thoughts now that we're basically done with Doremi? It feels like we're done, even though we're not. Like I keep.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, I know that Na-i-sho takes place more in Moto, I think.
Yeah. Well,
so it's like they don't do anything after the conclusion, aside from like the movie, which I don't know what the movie does. That's totally separate.
Yeah, no, and well, I mean, think about, because I remember when we were starting, and Shaves is like, no, you need to watch like Na-i-sho, like these episodes, but then you watch this episode at last or something. And I'm like, I kind of understand why now. Like, I did want to I mean, mostly we did this way for like the structure of the discussion, because like, oh yeah, we watched most of Na-i-sho and we'll talk about it. We watched the last episode and we'll talk about that another time. Like, no, I just want to kind of talk about all of Na-i-sho and the movie next time, and talk about all of Dokan and not have to worry about that. But when I rewatch it, I'll probably like tweak that watch order to leave off on that emotional note instead of like doing what we're doing right now. I mean, not that I expect Na-i-sho to not be that, but I just like, I mean, maybe it'll surprise me. Maybe there'll be a bigger gut punch than episode 51, because 51 is just like, thus, like from what I can tell, it just seems like the best way to end off the show. Like, it just feels like such an emotionally satisfying conclusion that, like, even though I'm looking forward to Na-i-sho, it's also like, oh yeah, I guess I have more to watch now. Like, just the way I'm sort of I've been talking about, where it's like, oh man, we're finally done with Doremi. It's like, nope, there's still 13 episodes in a movie that I know about. We literally talked about it before the podcast, during the podcast, and I still forgot about it again, because it's just such an emotionally resonant finale that I completely understand why people suggest alternate watch orders. It just doesn't work for podcast discussions, I guess. So sorry, but hey, we know now, and I'm gonna rewatch the show. So yeah. But anyway,
I like how the last episode, I mean, there were like so many different points where I'm like, if that was like the ending note, it would work. Or like moments that have like the poignancy of a final like moment in the episode, where like you have Doremi saying like, I'm not the world's unluckiest pretty girl, I'm actually the world's happiest pretty girl. And that being really good. You get the send off with Hana and Majorika. I like how there's kind of the overhead shot when they're leaving in the, I don't know if it's in the Mahodo. Yeah, I think it is. Where there's like a beam from the ceiling kind of dividing them and the girls. Mm-hmm. And then after they leave, there's like that beam is dividing Doremi from the other girls. So I don't know if that's meant to signify how like Doremi has accepted that like, everyone's gonna kind of go their separate ways, and like she can like function on her own and still like be friends without necessarily like spending every day with them. And it's like, it's interesting to think about, because like, Momo's going to America, so she's like gone. But like, she could probably visit Hazuki and Aiko. But it's like, it's so interesting. And then of course the final note where like they all leave the Mahodo behind, and then it ends with Doremi giving the love letter to her crush.
She's finally able
because
to ask out the yes, I stole your thunder.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Ripped their thunder right from under you.
Yeah, it was kind of like Doremi got that last moment where everyone else had kind of done their goal, like they had accomplished it, but Doremi kind of bookending the series with the its peak.
Yeah, no, and we did get little moments with the others, like Aiko, giving food takoyaki to her family, and everyone's like happy and smiling and together, and Hazuki is making her own choices even with her mother, and but like, yeah, she's able to do what she wants and live with her, like that was, so yeah, you still got that, like, lots of little stuff like that. And Hana's
I also
a baby
like
still.
how yeah. Oh yeah, when they were walking away and then she turns into a baby and then looks back.
I was thinking of like when all like the cute bit with all the babies sleeping with Pao-chan, and then Hana just like falls off, and it was just
yeah.
cute.
Oh right, the other thought that I had in episode 50, where like they were all talking to Hana and how like, no, we don't want to go, but like we have to. like if we want to move forward and connect the worlds and stuff. Like I imagine if you were like Hana could maybe also work as like an insert for the children who were watching it from the beginning, to where like, you know, Doremi and the others are kind of explaining like this is why we have to go, and like
the kids
you know,
who
I just
still
imagine
want to
it'd
stay
be
with Doremi, right? Like, but
yeah,
pretending.
because like if you grew up with that, and then to, you know, it's at that point it's probably like, oh, they're friends I come back to every week.
Oh yeah, no, like being an 8-year-old starting it in 3rd grade, and now it's January. You yourself in a month or two are about to graduate and go to middle school, and this show that's been such an important part of your life for 4 years is ending, and it's like, yeah, holy shit. Like there's a
Yeah, it's like we didn't quite get it right because it took 5 years instead of 4. But like with me being so bad at watching things, it's like it artificially replicated kind of that experience where like we were getting into the final episodes and I'm like, oh wait, this is a thing that is going to end. Like Doremi is not something that I'm just always going to be able to come back to. And it's like, oh, okay, we have more episodes. Like, no, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And then that also got me thinking like, you know, you with One Piece, are you ready?
Oh my god, I've said it before. Literally when it was announced that One Piece was entering its final saga after Wano, for like 2 or 3 times that day, I just imagined the idea of One Piece over and started tearing up. Like it was fucking with me just thinking about it. And now I'm a little distant that because it's been going now for like Egghead was longer than Fishman Island, right? So there's Love at which it's like it's still gonna go on forever. Like, and I literally have no idea what's going to happen next after, like, there's so much potential. There's so many things that need to be wrapped up. It just doesn't, it's still, even though I know it's in the final saga, it doesn't feel, it still doesn't, it once again doesn't feel real to me. So I can simply pretend that, everything's fine, even though things are in fact not fine.
Everything's fine. Oh, also a thing that I really like about Doremi is that, like, you know, as well with the themes of growing up and stuff, like the art style and the character designs definitely shift over time and like between seasons. And so like in some of those last couple episodes where they show old footage from like previous seasons and characters meeting each other for the first time and stuff, it's just like, oh my god.
God.
It's real.
Yeah, though you said like the idea of no more episodes left. Even though again we do have more episodes left, I also was thinking about it because just thinking about the way the show ends. But you have seen the 1620 little music video, right? It's the Doremi. It's the one with them older.
Was there a second one that happened?
There was that Shaves tweeted out, but you hopefully didn't see it because I mean I did see it, but it slightly spoils stuff from the last episode.
Oh, okay. No, I've only seen the first one.
That's what I mean. That's what it was called.
So I just wanted to make sure that I was thinking of the one you were talking about.
That's what I'm talking about, the 1621. So it's like there might be more Doremi. But that said,
give me adult Doremi. Yes,
because apparently that's adapted from a light novel or 2 light novels, I guess. It's a story that already exists, but I don't know if it's translated in English.
Okay.
But that said, because I thought I had during the last episodes was just like, because I wonder like I don't think it'll ever happen because it's just so not Doremi necessarily. But I was just I told you about the idea, but just like because I was thinking about like if I were to imagine a sequel to Doremi, I would actually be very curious to see sort of like a hypothetical like 100 years later, where it's more about like Hana trying to mend the bridges with the human world in like a vastly different human society. I feel like I imagine, especially in the context of think about Hana as a contrast to the Witch Queen's predecessor, right? Where of just like she was really hurt by her transient relationships with humans, and that led to her literally causing most of the problems in the series. Not most of the problems, but most of the biggest problems in the series. So Hana is sort of dealing with like now being like decades to centuries removed from Doremi and her friends, and now having to like go through this difficulty of mending the ties between the witch world and humanity, and trying to imagine what humanity would be like in 100 years.
Yeah.
They'd probably want magic more, with all the environmental chaos. Oops. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. So it's just like, obviously I feel like it's completely unfeasible. It's tonally not Doremi at all. I don't know how, like, I in that case, like 1620 makes way more sense. But like, it was a thought I had. I guess I also just thought about it in the context of like, we are getting sort of nostalgia properties with like, looking for Magical Doremi and Otona Precure 23, for example.
Yeah.
That
if it was, I feel like if it was anything other than Toei, I wouldn't be, but it's like, it's Toei and they've been doing magical girl stuff for decades and decades, so it's like, I know you can do it.
Yeah, but I guess in my head it's like, I don't see a way to do this story that I imagined without it being like really dark, and I can't imagine, or sad at least, just because of the but like just off top of just imagining humanity 100 years later, right?
Yeah, and, it's also something that would be like really interesting, because, like, Ojamajo Doremi is very couched in, like, it being the late 90s, early 2000s in Japan. And so I'd just be very curious to see, like, how the characters would be in, like, decades later, and with the, like, how much of the culture would change, and, like, it'd be really interesting. And obviously, like, I haven't seen the Precure season that the adult characters are from, so like I can't really appreciate it.
No, I like not Go Princess. Yes, Precure 5 and Go. Otana, it's fine. Honestly, the stand-up for Otana Precure wasn't even the Precure 5 characters. It was Michiru and Kaoru from Splash Star, who are actually like really important and get some really good stuff. And the overall conflict was kind of,
it was fine.
Yeah, I don't know. But I guess that's the thing, is like, when we imagine these potential future shows and then we get, not that, then we could be disappointed, which I think generally people don't like Otana Precure. I feel like. Maybe
that's
maybe
unfortunate.
I'm wrong, and I'm just thinking of like a vocal minority. But I don't super engage with the Precure fan base. Mostly they were mad because the fairy character in Yes Precure 5, who had some sort of romantic thing with Nozomi, but he was like a college age guy and Nozomi's a middle schooler, so they're doing the Sailor Moon thing, or just in general the shoujo age gap romance thing, and people don't like that. I just think it's funny because he's like a squirrel, and, and they do get married in Otana Precure, but also he's a squirrel. He's a fairy squirrel. I just can't take it too seriously, I guess. But anyway, I understand people having an issue with it, but it's also like, it's shoujo, like, whatever. Anyway, I think we're a little Doremi tapped out, but I did want to talk, like, so overall thoughts on Doremi now that we're functionally finished, even though we're not. We feel finished, but we're not.
It's peak. It might be my new favorite magical girl series, because like the benchmark has always been Hugto for me, and now I feel like just like, the way that Doremi, I already kind of talked about it, but the way that Doremi like uses the structure of the magical girl series like to its fullest by being over the course of 4 years and watching the characters grow up and developing this whole class of characters and how they all tie back in the end with random acts of kindness, like culminating in a moment where like everyone is there to reach out to Doremi when she's down. And it's so peak.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of been thinking about this because like I've been watching. I've watched all the Weep Crew episodes, and Moonby likes magical girls and Doremi, so he brings up Doremi semi often. And I guess so I end up thinking about it because like I think there's even like comparisons to, like Precure and stuff, and which usually like in favor of Doremi over certain aspects of Precure, but it's like I kind of get it because it's literally the same studio, like literally like a sequential. Like I'm pretty sure after Doremi, the next show was Futara Precure, right? So, but they're also so just different that like I understand like I absolutely understand liking Doremi more because Doremi is a very special show. Like I was thinking about it because like Sailor Moon happened. Sailor Moon kind of made it so like, oh, magical girls have to do this now, right? They have to be fighting evil. They have to be that transforming hero, more tokusatsu stuff. And Precure is very much like, well, it's insanely popular. So Toei is probably not going to stop doing it unless something else comes along that's more popular with that demographic, because it rakes in fucking cash. It's like literally consistently one of the highest rated anime. It's fucking Precure, right? But Doremi is interesting because it is kind of a throwback, right? It's calling back to those magical girl shows from before Sailor Moon in being more slice of life. Like I have seen couple like the first 2 episodes each of like the Creamy Mami and Minky Momo, the Pierrot shows, or Majoko Meguchan and Sally the Witch. So and they are more slice of life-ish, right? They don't have these big action set pieces like Precure, right? And so Doremi is also much longer. Like I'm pretty sure overall, like Sally the Witch and Ako-chan have more episodes, but they're not really. I don't imagine those shows are structured in the way Doremi is, because Doremi is divided up into these like year-long chunks, and each one of those has an arc, and they're able to give the entire show this very clear arc, right? Of just like primarily through Doremi, of her self-worth and image and how much everybody cares about her, right? Like you could pretty much trace that from episode 1 to episode 201, right?
For sure.
But so I was just thinking about how it's like, yeah, I absolutely like, because I don't know if Doremi is my favorite magical. Okay, here's my magical girl ranking. It's like Madoka is fucking insane. It's incredibly dense. It's so dense and rich. To me, it's so interesting with like how many the amount that it accomplishes in 12 episodes in a movie is beyond anything I've ever fucking seen. And it's like it's interesting on its own merits. It's deeply respectful of the magical girl genre in ways I want to dig into.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it in my capitalism video because it's even a lot like Doremi thematically, like to the point that I'd say like it's because everyone's like, oh, it's just Sailor Moon again. But I'm like, Monica's more similar to Doremi to me. Like not really like tonally or like structure or like what it's doing show, but more just in that thematic idea of like growing up through failure and childhood.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh yeah, these are the same show. Not really, but kind of, and so like Monica's like, it's built fucking different for me, and I'd be very surprised if another magical girl show surpassed it. That said,
Madoka it's like, you're right. It's like aesthetically the appeal is very different from the traditional magical girl, but like you're right that it does pay a lot of homage and respect to all these magical girl,
right? Like because I could draw connections
stuff.
to like Princess Tutu or Clamp. Like it's like the way it starts with the Tomoya character who's in love with the Cardcaptor Sakura character, and there's like a prophetic dream, and it's like it's like it does so much. It's so good. But anyway, so after that, it's like the only one that's like set would be like Smile Precure, because I don't need to feel like I need to rewatch that to set it. But I feel like above Smile Precure would be Doremi, Hugto Precure, and a la mode, and I want to rewatch all of those. So that's kind of my current like magical girl top 5. It's like a set number 5, a set number 1, and like a 2 through 4. I just have no fucking idea because I want to rewatch them. Because like a la mode was the first Precure show I watched like now over 7 years ago. I watched it in 2017, or did I watch it in 2018 after it ended? So over 6 years ago. I think it was the 2017 season. Then I watched Hugto Precure like as it aired for the most part. So that was the first Precure show I watched like over a long period of time. And I loved both of them to pieces. And especially Hugto, it's like the anniversary season. And I had only watched one of the shows before it. So fixing that this year because I have one left, and then I can rewatch Hugto. And of course, Doremi has I watched it over the course of 5 years. So I have these feelings spread over a long period of time, and it's like, I do have I have, like I mentioned, some of the episodes with like Pao-chan that had being kind of unsatisfied with me. It's like there's slight like little like Mars against it, but it's at the end of the day, it's still like that's the thing is I was saying like it's hard to be mad at like a single episode not being that good because there's 201 of them, but also I've only seen like 30 something this year, and I haven't like the other 14 or 13 I haven't seen since 2.5 years ago. And everything else I haven't seen even older than that. So I just, again, all these feelings are just so spread out that like even an episode that I remember really liking, because my notes say that I really liked it, I don't remember that well actually, so it's like it just a casualty of that. But I get to rewatch a good show that I like. Oh no,
So true.
so that's like currently how I feel about and that's kind of like counting all of Ojamajo Doremi at once. I guess I should add because it's like. But that again, just to go back to my original thought, is like it's built different. Like I don't think there's a show before Doremi that's anything like it, and I don't think there can ever be another show like Doremi, right? So it is very unique. It is very special, and I like even if it doesn't end up being like my favorite magical girl show, it's still I still appreciate it a lot. I still love it. It's still in my top 5 magical girl shows, right? Like, and I absolutely understand that, like, because I think Shades is like his number 2 or 3 anime after One Piece and Na-i-sho no Joe. So it's like, of course, right? Like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
I understand completely. Like, there's so much to love, and yeah, I will absolutely be enjoying a rewatch of it later down the line.
It'll take me a lot longer to rewatch it, but, at some point.
Another 5 years, let's go!
I'm just like, can I convince Bree to watch it?
Maybe. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess that about calls it for
I'll
us.
find someone to drag through it, maybe.
But yeah, I guess that about does it. And we'll see you next time for the actual last episode of the Nono show on Na-i-sho and looking for magical Doremi. So yeah, thank you for listening.